Hi everyone! Today I'll show you how you can quickly and easily re-knit these summery sporty sneakers with a rolled cuff. You'll need a set of double-pointed needles and matching yarn. I used the Soft Flex color yarn from Stark Wool. It actually has the big advantage for sports socks that it's a super elastic yarn. That means the yarn, or the sock, then fits very nicely against the skin and doesn't slip. For that, I used a set of double-pointed needles in size 2.5. A single ball of yarn was more than enough for me for a pair of sports socks. There's even a little left. I'm knitting my sock in size 36 to 37, and I'll show you exactly how it goes now. You begin your work by casting on the required stitches. Since I'm making socks in size 36 to 37, I cast on 12 stitches per needle. I'd also recommend, since this is that stretchy yarn and they're going to be sports socks for me, taking a few fewer stitches. I always use 2 needles for casting on, because that way the stitches just come out nice and loose and even. As I said, you now first cast on the required number of stitches, in my case 12 stitches per needle. If you've cast on the required number of stitches, your work should stretch out like this. Carefully pull the needle out, and we're already starting the first round of our rolled cuff. The first round is really simple. You knit all the stitches. That means, in my case, you're now distributing 12 stitches per needle across your set of double-pointed needles. That means, with the first needle, knit 12 stitches. Just take your next needle here. Make sure you pull the yarn fairly tight so that the piece is nice and snug and no holes form, and you knit 12 stitches again with the next yarn. Keep doing that until you've distributed all your work onto the 4 needles. Your set of double-pointed needles looks like this now, a little trick of mine. So that your first and fourth needles join up nicely here, I knit 2 stitches from the first needle with the fourth needle. You've already joined your work to your set of double-pointed needles. The next rounds for your rolled cuff are really easy. You're now in round 2, and just knit every stitch for the first 8 rounds. That's the rolled edge, and the cuff then automatically rolls outward. That means, when you've knit the 8 rounds, we'll see each other again, and I'll show you how to proceed. After you've knit your 8 rounds, your rolled cuff should look like this now. The stitches are now curling together nicely, which creates a really nice, slightly special, but still very simply knit cuff. The second step won't be any harder either. You're now alternating 1 purl stitch, which means yarn to the front of the needle, insert at the front. Bring the yarn forward, purl 1 stitch and knit 1 stitch through the back loop. Knitting through the back loop works like this. You put the yarn behind the needle. Now don't insert as you normally would into the front of the knit stitch, but goes behind the needle. Insert as if from the back, then pick up the yarn and thus form a twisted knit stitch. I'll show it to you again. 1 purl stitch, 1 knit stitch through the back loop. That means insert from the back, pick up the yarn through the pull a stitch, knit it through the back loop, then purl again. As I said, alternate purl, knit through the back loop. Purl until you've reached your desired height. You do that now really round after round. I'm going to knit my cuff 5 centimeters long. That means I'm going to make the whole thing 5 centimeters long now, and then I'll show you how it looks finished, and already the cuff for your summer sneaker sock is finished. So now I'll show you the heel in a moment. You start your heel again with the first needle, namely, now knit the first needle with your fourth needle. Still in pattern means in my case now. Knit 1 through the back loop, purl 1. From then on, from the next row, your heel flap begins. And now you just turn. Turn your work around. The second and third needles are resting now, and we now knit the heel flap up. It's really simple. Now we'll just purl 1 row across all the stitches, also the first and the last stitch. One row of purl stitches. After the first row, you turn your work back around. Now knit the stitches as they appear. That means a row of only knit stitches, so that we'll have a heel flap knitted in stockinette here. That means you start and end with a knit stitch. Knit every stitch. You now repeat that as long as many stitches you have on these. Have on both needles. So in my case, 12 rows, meaning 6 purl rows and 6 knit rows. After that, we'll start with the decrease rounds, and I'll show you how they work in a moment. Until then, wish you lots of fun knitting. Your work should now look something like this. In the next step, the decrease rounds begin. It's really simple. You always take on the left side. You knit together the first 2 and the last 2 stitches to start your decrease round. Knitting together looks like this. You don't purl the first stitch as usual, but instead you insert through the first and through the second stitch, and then knit the 2 stitches as a purl stitch. So you've turned 2 purl stitches into 1 purl stitch. Work the rest of the row as usual. Purl your stitches as they appear, and then purl the last 2 stitches together again. You purl the last 2 stitches together again. That means you bring the yarn to the front of the needle, push the needle through both stitches. Take the yarn, knit both stitches together like a purl stitch. Then you turn the work over and knit the right side round without decreases. That means on the purl round, always purl the first 2 and the last 2 stitches together. On the knit round, knit without decreases, and do this as long as until you have the same number of stitches on all 3 needles. In my case, 12. Have fun until then. Your heel flap should look like this now. Now we're going to pick up stitches on both sides. That means you take your knitting needle and now insert it right here into the first stitch. It's simply because you'll then have a nice snug heel without holes. Now always go into every second stitch from bottom to top and pick up your stitches. That means not into this 1 stitch here, but always 1 stitch further, from bottom to top. Now do that along the whole row. The stitches you've just picked up, you knit them all normally as knit stitches. Don't be surprised here, they're a bit tighter, but that's a good thing, because you get a nice, snug, even heel without any holes in it. like this. You can see super nice and even, no holes, nothing at all, and very, very easy to knit. You now knit the second and third needles, which were our set-aside needles as they come up. Since I'm continuing my pattern now on my summer socks, that means I'm now knitting alternately. 1 purl stitch, 1 knit stitch through the back loop. To knit through the back loop, you don't insert at the front like for a knit stitch, but at the back behind the needle, pick up your yarn, pull it through, and you've got 1 twisted knit stitch restricted. Purl, knit through the back loop. Do that on the second and third needles, and then we'll pick up stitches again. When you've knitted the second and third needles, you pick up stitches again, begin again here between, and then inserting from bottom to top, pick up a stitch in every other row again, just like you did before. Here too, you just knit all the stitches again. Now you'll need a 6th needle. In my double-pointed needle set, there are always 6 needles. Otherwise, you can just use a knitting needle in the same size. Knit every stitch as I said. Don't be surprised if they're a bit tighter. That's the point. So now you've basically got from your heel flap, your heel again here, nice and close, nice and even. You now have 1 needle too many, and we now simply split these 12 stitches from our heel flap onto the 4th and the 1st needles. That means you now knit the first 6 stitches on your current 4th needle, and then we'll switch needles. Five and 6. Here, the one side of your heel, change needle, then knit now the next 6 stitches. So now just keep knitting on your first needle here, knitting every stitch. And now you have your usual set of 4 double-pointed needles again, with stitches on them, and a working needle that you're knitting with. So, you're now knitting the first round, your decrease round for the heel. So now, in the first round on the first needle, we knit 2 stitches together. That means we decrease 1 stitch. Together works the same as purl together. You knit as if for a knit stitch, but you don't insert into the first stitch, you insert into the second. Then go through both stitches, pull the yarn through, knit it like a knit stitch, and you've turned 2 stitches into 1. You work needles 2 and 3 as usual, in my case with the pattern of twisted knit stitches. I'll show you in a moment how to do the third needle. You knit the third needle pretty much like the first one, except that here now we don't knit the last 2 stitches together, but simply the first 2, that the work here then comes together very neatly. That means you don't insert into the first stitch again, but into the second, knit it like a knit stitch, except that you're also inserting through 2 stitches. Pick up the yarn, and you've made 1 knit stitch out of 2 knit stitches. For the rest of the row, you knit every stitch. The second round is really simple. You just knit every stitch as they appear, without a decrease round. That means you decrease stitches on the first needle every second round. That is, here 1 stitch, by knitting the last 2 stitches together. And on the 4th needle, you knit the first 2 stitches together, then again a round without decreases. Keep doing that until you have the same number of stitches on each needle, in my case 12, and then you're already done with your heel. Until then, relax and Have fun knitting. When you're finished with your heel, your work should look something like this. From now on, it's really simple. You just knit your foot for as long as you need it. I'm knitting in size 36-37, and I'll knit about 14 centimeters before I then show you how the toe works.